Why, hi there, it's me, it's Uncle Ron. It's the 28th day of December 2024, and it's time to go through the mailbag because you guys actually sent in some very good questions. Let's start with Bucky from the Bronx. Bucky asks, Ron, is there a statute of limitations for when you should no longer be a player who might have succeeded against your favorite team? And the answer to that there, Bucky, is no. No, there isn't. Dwight Evans, I'll forgive for what happened in my 88 World Series, but not you, Bucky. Not you ever. No. No. It's been only 46 years. Nope, not yet. Not yet. You still have a middle name. All right, let's get to your serious questions. Baseball Demos asks, with so many people streaming on YouTube these days, perhaps a question might be, should you stream anytime you want, or should you adjust if you see another content creator has already started a stream? I am of the school where if it is, I either stream at noon or late in the or early in the evening. And I always announce when I'm going to be on. That's what the Facebook group is for me to be able to pollute you with whatever time that I do. So if someone else is on at noon, that's their loss because that's, I put out my schedule as much in advance as I can. And there are people who stream whenever they feel like it, regardless of who else is on. And my general rule of thumb is if I know that someone's on and doing the same sport that I'm about to do, I won't go on top of that. But I generally know on any given day when I'm going to go on and when I'm not. So I think there's a courtesy thing there if it's the same sport. But beyond that, if I'm going to do a hockey game and someone else is doing a baseball game at night, it's two different audiences. Not everyone's going to watch the same thing. And I know that people have watched two different streams at once. So generally, I like I said, I know when I start my day or if I'm going to stream, what time I'm going to do it. And at lunch, I'm just going to do it. And I know that the people that I would not generally stream over have a pretty good idea when I'm going to do that. Sometimes it happens, but not necessarily. And so I try to avoid it. There's some people that they're just going to stream whenever they want, and more power to them. Dave asks, when you play a game, yes, whether streaming or not, okay, do you ever play a game just for the fun of it? Oh, sure, all the time. All the time. Or part of something bigger or a project. I will pull things out and think that I will do some sort of project. I think I've done, partial seasons of this and partial seasons of that. But as far as, whether they get finished or not, at this point, I really don't care. I pretty much play those offline for the fun of it. It is just me and whatever the game and whatever the time that I'm doing. Sometimes it's to learn, and sometimes it's, hey, could I turn this into something? Usually it's the cards and dice type stuff, like the Strat on the PC or something that I'm playing in Excel or Solitaire Pro Football that I'm not going to be doing as a project, but want to be able to play and just play for me time, not necessarily play for public consumption. So absolutely. And, usually those side things just get way too unwieldy and big and like, you're never going to finish it. But they're there. And so, yes, I play for the fun of it quite a bit, more often than actually stream. Is there anything else there? Anything else I could... other people answered it. John answered it most of the time. It's part of a bigger project. Once in a while, whether inspired by content creators or a famous game that he sees on TV or on YouTube, he'll play a one-off. And Mark says it's all for the fun of it, but I understand the question. Yes, it usually is some sort of project or tournament, but I'll also do tribute games or replay a specific Super Bowl or a boxing match. So yeah, I do enjoy one-offs, but more so it's just play for me as opposed to anything else. And as regarding will you go stream against someone else? Dave's schedule is a little more liquid than mine, so it's fly by night, and so he just kind of waits and sees. Greg did ask, what obscure sport have you not played that you would like to sim? That's a very good question. I have played the Big Four. I've done bowling and track and field. I guess, swimming. I know there's a couple swimming games out there. I have Roberto Chavini's. I probably should get the old Lamborn one. I've done cricket. Um, Boxing, I've done. That I've not played that I would like to sim. I guess a halfway decent curling game would be fun. Beyond that, there are so many different sports out there, and so there's so many different itches you can scratch. Um, a good Australian rules football game would be fun too. But I've played. I mean, there's. I mean, you really can't. I mean, there's even figure skating and gymnastics sims out there. I'm not sure what it would be. A good volleyball sim would be really good as well. So, I guess that's it. But I've played pretty much everything once. I do have T-line curling, I think. Curling, I guess, would. I mean, yeah, pretty obscure at this point. If I've seen it, I'm interested in it. Hopefully that answers your question. Um, there's a lot of ones that you don't see because they don't stream very well that I've played. Highly recommend International Track and Field, which you can find on sportsreplays.net. And that's marathons. You can actually simulate marathons with that. Mark asks, what is my earliest memory of sports simming? I'll read his answer. For him, it was 1973, and his dad and him sat on the floor in the living room, pulled out 2 red dice, a yellow legal pad, a pencil, and the sports section of the New York Daily News, New York's hometown newspaper. We took the lineups from the previous day's game between the Mets and the Pirates. I remember him writing down the names like Dave Giusti, Richie Hebner, and all the Mets of that era, and he taught me a game he and a friend had made up in junior high in the early 50s. They called it dice baseball. 1-1 a ground out, 1-2 a fly out or a sac fly, 1-3 a single, 1-4 a strikeout, 1-5 a fly out, 1-6 a single, etc. And a 6-6, of course, was a home run. He played that until he discovered APA and then Status Pro, and then he was off and running. As far as a sim is concerned, I think it would be Championship Baseball back in '83. I would have been about 11 or 12. As far as sports gaming is concerned, about 75, 76, somewhere in there. So under 5, I had the smash they had on the football kicking thing, where you line it up for the field goal and you smash the head of that, or for the baseball pitcher and stuff. So I would say that would probably be my first into sports gaming. So again, winter of 75, 76. I think I showed this off on the Digital Dice Podcast Facebook group, the basket game, which was to shoot the ping pong ball through the hoop. But again, my best friend from elementary school and I would do Celtics versus Lakers. He was a Laker fan and would always beat me. It's amazing what you can do. You can use your fingers. But as far as sports simming is concerned, I would say that Championship Baseball, which had the tops cards with the dice rolls in the back, was there. And along with Micro League at about 84, 85, somewhere in there. And then it was all downhill for me from there. But yeah, so that's cool that they came up with that game. I was not, my parents split when I was almost 5. So don't know what my father actually played. And the guy that ended up being my dad did some of that stuff, but he was a ski writer and a football fan. So we actually did the NFL VCR quarterback game. We played a few of those. Those were fun, but it was not anything that I grew up with. It was something that I kind of discovered out on my own. Thanks for the question. Paul asks, what is the best sport to stream and why is it baseball? I would think that baseball is the easiest to stream live because you can have a conversation while you're doing it and you're not missing anything. I think that although whatever your favorite sport is, I think is going to be the easiest to stream for you because you're the most familiar with it. I think that cards and dice is harder to stream than the computer games because you end up trying to explain to yourself as you play the motions of the cards and the dice or the charts or what have you. There are some people who do a very good job of that, Mr. Gardner being one, Baseball Demos, who also asked a question, being another. Al, Red Sox fan, of course, very good at that. That you can follow along quite easily while you're watching. And Baseball Demos, obviously one of the best lacrosse simmers that there's ever been on the face of the earth. Baseball, I think, because it is a passive sport, leads itself to that. You can check in and out and have that conversation. But there are, if anyone who does the pro strategy football, I mean, that streams rather well. So I think it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking just to record and not have any interaction, it's whatever your favorite sport is the best sport to stream, because you're going to have the most emotional involvement in it. As far as what to do in a chat situation, I think baseball is best because there are definitive breaks between each batter. Although, again, there's nothing wrong with football. I've done hockey recently. It's, I think, the hardest of the sports that I've done. I really need to do more basketball. That's the one sport I've actually called for real, and I do like it. But again, when you get into a cards and dice thing, you get more into calling the cards and dice part of it, as opposed to you do the game instead of the sport. Hopefully that makes sense. But for me, I've done probably 1,000 baseball games at this point, and you just know what the natural breaks are, and people can react to it. And again, you can come in and out of it and not miss anything. Football, I think, requires more of a full attention to do. Jeffrey asks, as I'm going to take a sip here. Excuse me. What inspired me to start my channel? The answer is I figured I would never finish a project if I didn't actually have someone to watch it. So that was the start of it. And how has my content evolved since then? Hopefully it's gotten better. The games have gotten better. I had just finished a 2-year plus stint at Fansided as a writer, first for their general baseball site, and then as co-editor for the Washington National site, and I left that in 2018. They had me covering hockey. I agreed to cover hockey, and that was just a little too much. It was fascinating, but I didn't have any staff, and I wasn't writing 50 articles a month. So I let the go do that while I tried to figure out what I wanted to do, and that was in August of 18. Well, here it is, Christmas time of 2024, and we're talking about starting my 7th full season, single season, replay from start to finish. Now, we're not going to do all 1,200 games, obviously, but we do between 90 and 130, 140 over the course of a given year. How has it evolved? I think, you tried to do stuff within season, so I did a couple of football ones, so I got frustrated doing that. Obviously, the podcast has been a huge driver of that, because that is very much, although it is most of the time it's just Dave and I talking back and forth, seeing in other games and talking with other game developers and trying out different things. And so that's evolved. I'm not much into the chat portion of doing that. That's more Dave's deal than mine. But yeah, it's much more of, for me, I think it's evolved into just a place to come and take in something at lunchtime or whatever, 3 or 4 times a week, and kind of go from there. You never know what's going to happen, but that's kind of what it settled in, and we all have our groups in that, and sharing that experience together. Because, when you watch something on television or listen on the radio, because that's much more of my bag is the radio than TV, you're sharing that experience, and with whatever it is, and as you are the eyes and the ears of whatever it is that you're describing, and you feel the good things and the bad things. So I guess it's, the live streaming, I think, is probably the biggest evolution of that, along with just a variety of different things that we show off. I mean, I Must Played, I think, we've done a lot of different sports on that channel, and most of it I've enjoyed. So thanks for the question. Michael asks, I don't think I've ever asked this question. I think I think Jane kind of poisoned your Christmas meal if you think you've never asked this question before, Michael. What is my favorite game and what is my least favorite game? I'll hang up and listen. Let's see. My favorite game before I started simming in college was Micro League Baseball. Played a ton out of that. Uh, you could actually enter your own teams. It reminds me a lot of Pro Strategy Football, all ratings based and all that. My current favorite game is again, it's a No More Garcia Parra Women's Soccer in 1999. I that just played the heck out of that game, and Brandy Chastain scoring just does sends a chill up my spine. What is my least favorite game? Mia Ball Simulator. Again, you've asked this question before. I think that Derek Jeter is criminally underrated in the game, and this Nomar Garcia Parra guy is just never going to be as good as she thinks he is, and all that. Let's see, micro league from previous, from before I got into the sports sims. My least favorite game of all time was the Coleco handheld football game that I had when I was 12 or 13, and it kept shorting out on me. So you go to run a play, and the screen would there, and so I would think that would be my least favorite game that I'm going to tell you about. I'm sure the next time I'll do a mailbag. Also, the WNBA sims I kind of enjoy too. I'm sure someday you'll own like 5 or 6 of those. Kurt asks, last but not least, how have your hobby preferences changed in the time that you've started your channel? Good question. I am much more of a fan of cards and dice games than I am pure computer games. Whether I'm using a helper in Excel or with a Stratomatic or that. I think that when you're much more just kind of plug and play, made me miss some of the experiences, not necessarily with other people from when I was in college, but that kind of hands-on experience of seeing where the results come from and such. Again, the PC games are all good, and we'll be doing Action PC again for the 7th straight year for 1956 for the baseball sim. But I think for that time of just kind of seeing where things come from, that cards and dice experience, whether it's virtual, I mean, Ball Roller is just absolutely what you love. And you can configure that pretty much however you want. So I think that is the biggest preference. I don't play as much football as I did before. Not as much of a fan of the game. And certainly because of the channel of the podcast, I am seeing games and playing games that in sports that I would never have dreamed of growing up, and enjoying them. So I guess that would be. Ooh, is there another question there? There is. So that would be that. No, maybe not. I think we got them all. So that would be how that is. Much more in the cards and dice. And goodness gracious, I must have played 50 different games this year. Certainly buy a lot of them. All right. And of course, the question I had from before with the podcast, who was the Jordan, who is the Pippen? Well, Gardner's the Jordan. I mean, he's the one that's organizing the convention and does all the chats and stuff like that. And personally, I think he's one of the biggest names in the hobby. And so whatever I can do to help him is there. I don't mind being the Pippin for that. There will be no VH1 tell-all at the end of that. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you all have had it that week between Christmas and New Year's. Eat a vegetable. It's okay. I'm Ron Juckett. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you the next time.